for another Energizer episode. A beautiful new day is gifted to us to live and to feel alive and to feel blessed and to feel grateful and to feel thankful. But one thing that we do need to always take into account, into consideration, is that action creates change. It is of no use to think about the changes that you want to see in your life. Yes, there's a lot of value in visualization, but in this instance, I mean that, you must do something about it. If you want to see something significant in where you see yourself and where you want to go, you need to do something about it. And rate your own level of awareness. Are you aware of the things that needs to be done in order for you to be available and to be ready to receive the miracles that is there for you every day in your life? So let's just specify a miracle, because in this instance, I'm not referencing something that is of a religious nature. I'm referencing miracles. That means that it's things that happen we cannot explain. So there's no reason that it's like that. But when you rate your level of awareness, are you aware of the miracles that you receive every day? Because the more you can develop and sensitize and educate and integrate your ability to experience and observe these miracles, to be able to feel such elation when they happen and feel this amazing wave of excitement and ecstasy that washes over you. Because ecstasy is the new frequency. Because it's in a state of ecstasy and enthusiasm that we really take action, that we do things, that we make things happen. But we need to be aware of information overload, and we need to look at what is fueling you. So we'll perhaps touch on that today if we're allowed the amount of time in the duration that I share with you here. So we'll see what this morning brings. So what is the truth in your life right now? What is true for you? What do you speak over your life? What do you declare as what is going to be there in your future self for you to go and experience? What is the truth? Let's start with a very important declaration that we need to. A declaration is something that is born out of ownership, is born out of us being able to own this life, to own this body. So let's start with, I'm at home in my body. I'm at home in my body. I rejoice in my sensuality. I circulate freely through the spaces, the passages, the opportunities that life presents. And it's a circulation, it's a flow. Just like right now, the blood is circulating through my body, because there's circulation happening here all the time. Just like that, we also need to circulate with what is surrounding us and what is in our world. I circulate freely. I only accept thoughts that support me and make me feel good. Because there are so many thoughts that run through your mind all the time that is ego-generated, that is generated by mind by association incidents in your past that didn't make you feel good. And the mind always works by association, and it always goes and finds the relevant frequential, vibrational match in terms of what it's going to show you to look at. I only accept thoughts that support me and make me feel good. What a beautiful declaration. I allow joy to now flow freely through my life, because our journey here is not about being happy or feeling pleasure. This must be a pleasure. We need to shift that, ascend that energy, that frequency into the frequency of joy. That's why we've got the word enjoyment. It's actually to be in a state of joy. I allow joy to now flow freely. Here's a very important one too. I give my mind a joyous vacation. Let your mind go on a joyous vacation. And it doesn't mean that you pack your bags and you get on a plane and you go somewhere. It means that you simply just give yourself that declaration and you tell your mind, I give you a joyous vacation. This is also very important. I accept myself as lovable, as loving, and as loved. Because it's so easy to feel cut off, to feel excluded, to feel left out, to feel abandoned, rejected, overlooked. And at the moment, the most predominant energy that I'm dealing with in myself and in what I'm experiencing and what I see others are experiencing is the energy of rejection. And the energy of rejection manifests itself in so many ways. But once rejection takes hold in your life, once that, it's a very, very strong and intense emotion, energy in motion. Once rejection takes hold in your life, it's going to push into all areas of your life, and rejection is going to make you very rigid. When you're sitting with the energy of rejection, you become so rigid. There's no flexibility. And when flexibility is absent, there's no consideration. Because consideration always requires us to be flexible, and to be flexible. And in my own life, I stand totally astounded at some areas and how intensely I am challenged with things that I've never experienced in my life before, and we'll expand on that as well this morning. But I can now also declare over my life, I can say, I accept myself as lovable, as loving, and as loved. I now choose wisely. I choose wisely. When you choose wisely, you're applying discernment. And when you are discerning, then you act with wisdom. You act with a sense of knowingness. You act with a deep and profound sense of intuition. Now I support myself in amazing ways. And there are things in my life which I would never do before, but I now, especially at when your years start moving on, and when you start recognizing, as I started recognizing as I got older, that there needs to be more time for me to regenerate, to reshift, to reset my energies, especially at the level of intensity which I do in all my conduct. There's a high level of intensity. What does that mean? It means that I give my best always. It's a high level of intensity. Now I support myself in amazing ways. I am free. I am free to honor myself, to take care of myself, to feel that I want to be good to myself. And it's not because I'm not giving my best. It's simply because I make myself a priority. And you don't always have to make yourself a priority. Excuse me. You don't always have to make yourself a priority. Sometimes someone else in your life may be the priority, but you need to sometimes be the priority. It mustn't be a privilege exclusively reserved for the people in your life that you care for, that you love, or that your career, your colleagues, no. You also need to get a turn, because so often we have the thought, when is it going to be my turn? When is it going to happen to me? And we say that because we're comparing. But I also want to invite you this morning to say for me, please, and repeat it. Life isn't an emergency. Although most people believe otherwise, life isn't an emergency. Your life isn't an emergency. Because when we live with this idea that our life is an emergency, what is it that you're fueling? Because when you think that your life is an emergency and everything that happens is an emergency and it's the end of the world. And let me tell you, when I make a mistake and I make a genuine mistake, and I'm devastated. And for me, then my life feels like an emergency. Now it's an emergency. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to sort this out? Life isn't an emergency. We take our own demands, and yes, there are demands. Life does come to you with demands. Life demands only the best of you because life will never compromise you. It demands that you sometimes go through a process of humble presence, of I said to someone the other day, I'm standing with my hat in my hand, not like a beggar, but as a symbol of my humble presence. Because I do sometimes, and we all do, admit that we've done something that we could have done in another way. And then we take our demands so seriously that we forget and we neglect to have fun along the way. You forget to cut yourself some slack. You forget to be gentle with yourself. Life goes on. But life, just like the roads that you travel on, are constantly, they install speed bumps. And especially in the city where I reside, there are speed bumps on most of the roads. Why? Because they are there to slow the speed of the vehicle down. Because even when things don't go according to plan and you run into a speed bump, sometimes you don't see them. And the car like crashes and bounces and flies through the air and and then you get such a fright. And that's what an emergency feels like. But keep reminding yourself, my life isn't an emergency. My life is effortless. My life is full of miracles. Why? Because I declare for them to be there. I say my life is a miracle. How often do you create your own emergencies? Just look. Misunderstandings, procrastination, unwillingness, compromise. If I see that I'm compromising myself or someone that I share my journey with, if I feel that I'm compromising them, I will remove myself, because I treat everybody that I encounter in my life with utmost respect for who they are, for what they represent. When there's compromise, so often we take things for granted because we only compromise on things that we don't hold in high regard. And that compromise can sometimes be for many reasons, but yet it's a compromise. And very often the compromise takes us to resentment because we feel resentment towards what we are given to endure. But there's always a bigger picture. Most of the time, your emergencies are only the thoughts that you entertain in your head, that you convince yourself that it is real. You even create emergencies with stuff that already happened. And by thinking how bad it could have been. And even though it didn't happen, you think how terrible it could have been if that and that and that and that should have happened. But why spend time on regurgitating the stuff of the past, no matter how much you suffered there, no matter how much you endured there? Why are you still continuing to this day to take stuff from your past and make it an emergency in the way that you think about it? And let me tell you, when you do that, the stuff that you go and fetch from memory, me more wise, memory, that you go and fetch to reanalyze, to regurgitate, to go and saturate yourself in that emergency, in that feeling, in that high fight or flight, adrenaline pumping energy. You harm your body so much, because your adrenals are constantly releasing adrenaline in order to deal with the demands that the thoughts are creating for your body. Where the mind goes, the body follows. And it's no need for you to continue your life today on what happened yesterday. Unless your past becomes your history, your life will be ruled by it. If you cannot make your past the history, and look at our planet at the moment, people are constantly regurgitating the history of how bad it was, and that becomes the excuse for how bad it's going to be in the future. That's not how we're going to extrapolate ourselves from living the challenges of this world that sometimes makes us feel like we want to give up, and that it's so overwhelming, and I just don't want to do this anymore. So that's why life gives us, things on our human journey that we just cannot escape. None of us are exempt, and none of us can escape it. And one of the most wonderful things in our journey is our ascension process. Our ascension process is an aspect of our human experience that nothing is exempt. Even my animals, my dogs, go through an ascension process, and I can see it in them, how it's almost like something in them awakens. But it's not an easy process. It's like birth. These days, most mommies choose to have their children by cesarean section because it's more comfortable and it's more convenient. But the birth process is a very, very important aspect of our journey into being human. But the ascension process is what I want to touch on this morning, because I realized so much about my own life when I actually explored the current signs of ascension, because our planet is going through an ascension process, and there's going to be those who is going to ascend. And if you listen to Laura Scannon's work, and she talks a lot about ascending to the fifth dimension. I'm not a great advocate of this is a dimension and that dimension. I just know that I work with frequency and vibration, which is the energy of life, the energy of creation. So the action of rising to an important position or a higher level is what is described by the Oxford Dictionary as ascension. The action of rising to an important position. And I constantly remind you how important your own permission is, and how important it is for you to shift that permission into a higher frequency by making it a declaration, so that you can ascend, rise to an important position in the eyes of life, and also to a higher level in the way that your own thinking processes function. So currently, the ascension process is creating an emotional sensitivity in us. A week ago, Monday, I spent the entire day in tears. I didn't actually know even why I was crying, but the emotional sensitivity of the ascension process that is currently in action, that is currently being as part of the evolutional process, that is currently on offer to experience. Some people choose not to experience it. Their frequency just doesn't reach there. But when you are part of the ascension process, you'll have an emotional sensitivity. You'll be stirred to tears. You'll feel more attuned to things that you can't necessarily explain or understand. And there will be a care for emotional transformation. So you will feel that there's something going on with you. And most of the time is that you start operating from your heart, more from what your heart tells you to do rather than what you're feeling in your head. And the emotions and the heightened sensitivity that comes with that you will feel things more deeply. And when I say more deeply, so much more deeply. Deeply, intensely. An emotional sensitivity, but also that brings a sense of being more attuned to your environment. And it's a sign that you are evolving, there will be things in you that will bubble to the surface. Just like things bubble in nature, when there's a brook, it bubbles to the surface. And when you look at natural champagne, that you see those beautiful tiny bubbles, they rise from the center of the liquid to the surface. And you release through emotional expression. There's no other way to really release except if you look at the way that your body releases its excrement and it releases its excess water. It's got billions, trillions of pores through which it does that every moment. And that is an aspect of ourselves that we don't even take into consideration, the emotional sensitivity that is happening through every pore in your body. That emits a certain fragrance. It emits a certain sense of hormones, of pheromones into the atmosphere, which is a form of communication that we don't even know. We know nothing about. But that emotional sensitivity is also communicated from you. And that is something that is removed from us because of the fact that so much is happening on the screen these days. It's removed from us. We don't activate those senses in us anymore. So we become more and more reduced to a singularity, to working in a single 1-0 configuration. So your emotional sensitivity is wonderful. It's not an emergency. Tears have never meant that you are weak. When the tears flow for me, it means that your cup is running over. Your cup runneth over. What's in the cup is for me. What comes out of the cup is for you. So let things bubble to the surface. Let your cup runneth over. Be fearless of the intensity of your emotions, because true power is a certain knowingness. It's an absolute trust that you can be fearless about being vulnerable, because we fear our vulnerability more than anything else. Yes, we are extremely vulnerable. If we are cut, we bleed. This skin is microns thick. It's very vulnerable, yet it holds together everything that makes you human. Tears are not weakness. The next sign of your ascension process is physical symptoms. And I have been in such a quandary over past several months already that I've had these indescribable physical symptoms. unusual aches and pains. My body feels lethargic. It feels as if I'm dragging myself. My energy shutting down, because the physical symptoms is an indication that your body is in a purification process. It's going into higher dimensional energies, and it's a new melody. It's you can also, and this is really the paradox and the polarity of it, is the extreme fatigue that comes with it, because the extreme fatigue is because you need to go, and the process requires intense restructuring to ascend. So you're shedding the density of the way that things function here now is being shed away. There's phenomenal upgrades that are happening within you, just like on your computer, on your watch, on your phone. There's phenomenal upgrades that are happening. And as with a butterfly, you are going through physical changes as well. You've got to drink a lot of water now, uh, a lot of liquids. Walk barefoot a lot so that you can ground yourself, especially indoors. Ground yourself regularly. Just stand on the earth and say, Mother Earth, I'm grounding with you. I'm here with you. Thank you for holding me up. Thank you for offering me an experience of living life on planet Earth. Because Mother Earth does that. She's holding you up with her gravity. That's her love for us. That's how she's holding. Because when we love somebody, we want to hold them. Gravity is a form of being held. And more and more people are realizing, as they accept and they can vibrate with the frequency of this love, that they levitate. Because when Mother Earth sees that you're resonating with her love for you, she doesn't have to hold on to you anymore. When we realize that someone truly loves us and they really want to be with us, we don't have to hold on to them anymore. We can let go, and then we can see them levitate. That's the saying, that if you really love something, set it free, and when it comes back, it's yours to stay. So open and envisage smooth energy flow of energy through your body, even though there's the discomfort. And with some of the discomfort that you may be experiencing, you can go to the doctor. The doctor's not going to find anything wrong with you. Because it's an ascension symptom. So be gentle with yourself. And it was such a revelation to me. I tell you, it feels like I've been liberated, because I was envisaging some really, just like I said earlier, I was creating many emergencies for myself. And even till recently, Friday, I think my shift only really started happening yesterday, when I sat down and I reviewed some recent incidents in my life, and I realized, I set myself up with such emergencies, and it's really, sometimes I can't even describe how it happens, but it does. So the next one that you need to be aware of is disorientation. The disorientation is a sense of spaced outness, feeling out of body, uh, a sense that you've lost your sense of place, where you belong, where you feel that you can feel comfortable and at ease. So there's a sense of unease all the time, and feeling like you're observing your life, standing outside of your own life, observing yourself from a distance, like you can't quite connect with yourself. So it's a disorientation, and especially during time of stress, this feeling of disorientation, of distance, being distanced from your own self, will be pronounced. It's like the best way to describe it, it's like undertaking long distance travel and going to a place that you've never been to. So, you're leaving the familiar and you feel disoriented when you get there because you don't know where things are and it's a whole new place and you're running and you perhaps have to catch a connecting flight and you're looking for all the signs. And I remember when I was in Seattle, we had to run for 4 kilometers to the next terminal to catch connecting flights. It was quite an experience, and all along the way there's security checks as well. And if you miss one, you've got to go all the way back to catch that one. So yes, so it's a feeling of disorientation, like you're going into a new environment. It's a passing phase, and as you become more acclimatized, accustomed, comfortable with the new level of energy that you're going to encounter in the ascension process. It's like going up a high building. So before you worked on the 5th floor, now you're going to be working on the 15th floor. So it's a process of ascension, and as you moving up the floors, you'll be able to see that much further in terms of what the vista will reveal to you, because you're not going to see the same amount on the 5th floor as you're going to see on the 15th floor. So it's a new environment, it's a passing phrase, but you embrace it because it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to know I'm going through ascension symptoms, or these are my ascension symptoms. I can trust them because I don't now need to think that my life is in an emergency and that there's something that I need to attend to, or there's something terrible that's going to befall me. And then you find that you belong. You can belong. You're not going to feel lost. You're not going to feel as if you need to be somewhere else. I'm here, but I want to be there. Because that's one of our biggest dichotomies, is how we steal our life from ourselves, being here, but we want to be there. Again, it's wonderful to visualize, and most importantly that we do. We need to constantly see the life that we want to live, and we need to have the faith that it's going to be so for us. But we are living here, and we need to own what's going on here. It doesn't help to go back into the past and to bring all that energy to bear on here, or go into the future and then deal with all those things in the future, which is what is not. It hasn't happened. And what is in the past is what was. It's done. It's gone. So now you can find that you can belong here. And if you look at the word belong, you can be here for long, because the present moment consciousness, this present moment, is the ever-present eternity. In this moment, everything that was, will, and will be is. That's how powerful this moment is. Find your body. Belong here in the now. You're not lost. You're not disoriented. You're not cut off. You're not excluded. There's no emergency. Just belong here. Even this morning, here with me. That's why I always encourage you to be present, because then you can belong. You can be here for long. Next ascension symptom to consider is nocturnal activity. You're going to go into very deep sleeps because you're going to disconnect yourself completely from your earthly body to be able to be educated, to be exposed to the halls of learning on the astral plane. So you'll go into a very, very deep sleep, and you'll disconnect from outside disturbances that way, so that your body, because remember, there's a big distinction that people do not make. When you go to sleep, your physical body sleeps, not your mind, not your consciousness. Your consciousness never sleeps. Your consciousness, that's why you dream. Your consciousness never sleeps. Your body needs the rest, not your consciousness. But your body, where the mind goes, the body follows. If the body is not rested, it cannot support the mind to function well. Because remember that the heart's beating, you're breathing oxygen, it's feeding the functions of the body that makes you function on all levels of existence, of all levels of consciousness. It's all contained here, just like the earth. This is a contained system, this body. So your nocturnal activity is you're going to navigate these pronounced and shifting energies in your sleep. And you will have you'll have a sense of recalibration that will happen. That's why sometimes you go to bed feeling great, and in the morning you wake up and you're feeling, or you're feeling really not well, because the things that you encountered in your journeys through your soul, through your resting, perhaps brought up stuff that needs to be dealt with. And because we don't have the awareness, and we always think that when we feel these things that it's an emergency and we have to heal it at all costs, when you navigate these pronounced shifting energies, you'll find that you have a profound opportunity for recalibration. You'll also have symbolic dreams. The dreams will be very significant, but they'll be in a very distinct symbolic language. So you'll wake up between the hours of 2 to 4. These are called the cleansing and releasing hours. If you are in this morning, I checked my watch, it was exactly 2 o'clock when I woke up. And it's a clean, and I didn't think, oh, now I'm awake. I simply just allowed myself to accept these are the cleansing and releasing hours. And the pineal gland is at this moment highly active. And it's through your pineal gland that you connect through to the higher realms of consciousness. So there's a heightened state of awareness during these hours. And this is ideal for downloads from the higher realms of consciousness. But you need to also declare that. I'm ready to receive my highest good. I'm ready to receive the wisdom for my life that's going to allow me to make choices with amazing discernment. Your dreams can also be wild and intense. It's all symptoms of you ascending, because remember that ultimately you are primal energy. Primal energy is wild and intense. If you've experienced the primal energy and of a storm, the primal energy of lightning striking something in front of you, the primal energy of a tornado or a hurricane or a tropical storm, it's primal, and it's extremely destructive in its primal force, because it forces everything in its path. Dreams are wild and intense because its source is primal energy. Next is a heightened sense of awareness. A heightened senses in awareness that's going to reveal to you things. It's going to accentuate your ability to see and your ability to hear things. Let those who have the eyes to see, and let those who have the ears to hear. That's the ascension process, because you'll be able to see things differently. You'll be able to listen in a different way. You'll glimpse beyond everyday reality. You'll be able to have an insight into things that is not available to everyone. It's going to be available to you because you've ascended. You've moved from the 5th floor to the 50th floor. You've moved into a different reality, and there will be a synchronicity that will constantly communicate with you, that is going to be so humbling and so awe-inspiring that's what feels like a miracle. That's what brings on the sense of ecstasy. That's why ecstasy is the new frequency, because this synchronicity delivers us to this amazing sense of ecstasy. And Ecstasy translates into this amazing enthusiasm for living life, for being human, for stepping outside of the need for emergencies in your life, for stopping the need to punish yourself through the constant and incessant delivery that your adrenals are forced to deliver adrenaline to sustain your daily experiences. It's going to give up at some stage, and that's when you're going to feel this immense fatigue, which is already part of the ascension symptoms as well. But in actual fact, that is sometimes a physical manifestation which you can change when you accept and you embrace and you integrate and surrender the fact that you are busy with an ascension process. And it's humbling, it's awe-inspiring. And the wonder that it delivers, because it wants you to experience itself in a state of wonder, in a state of awe, in a state of ecstasy. The next one is ascension process is also a sense of ringing in the ears. That is also a sense that you are tuning to higher frequencies, that you're not familiar to listen to. I mean, if you look at the way that elephants communicate with each other at the lowest of hertz, at the lowest of frequencies, that our human ear cannot hear. And that's the level at which they communicate with each other consistently. So, the ringing in the ears is attuning us to higher frequencies. So you'll be able to hear, your hearing will be so much better. You'll be able to, I'm always astounded at the ability of animals to hear things. Their hearing is so acute. But we are also ascending in our connectedness to our primal energies. We are attuning to higher frequencies because it's as above, so below. It's the microcosm of the macrocosm. It's the identical thing. The next is intolerance for lower vibrations. You're going to be intolerant to lower vibes because lower vibes is going to trigger in you a sense of discomfort. It's going to affect you physically and emotionally, and it will bring about immense and intense and very, very pronounced feelings of unease. And there's also in this lower vibration experience, there's an intense physical manifestation of nausea and unease, and I've experienced that as well. To the extent that it actually forced my body into a state of purging, which is totally unusual for me. So there's so much that I'm sharing with you today that is testimony to the ascension of the earth plane as well, because we cannot continue in this vein. The way that the earth has been in a state of war since its beginning, as far back as the scriptures takes us, whether we read the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, whether we read the Quran, whether we read the Torah, whether we read the Christian Bible, it's been wars since the beginning. And all the major heroes, Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great, and all of these are all heroes of war, that they simply just ruled the world because of the fact that they were the best at war. So the next one in terms of emotional challenges will be our ability to look at in terms of ascension. Let me rephrase that. The next that I want us to look at in terms of the ascension is the emotional challenges that comes from our need. We constantly have this need to descend into the basement of our psyche, into feeling the dark and dingy depths. Yes, we need to descend into the depths of the psyche. It's absolutely required. But we do not need to do that through depression, anxiety, and panic and dissonance. We can go and experience those. We can look at them. We can put them in front of us as a mirror, and we can see them, and we can say, I see you, I hear you, I acknowledge you, but that's not how I wish to spend my days and to spend this precious moment of aliveness. If you're going to subject yourself to these emotional challenges, you are going to feel like a stranger in your world. It's going to amplify the feelings of alienation, of even there's even a feeling in that alienation that comes from a belief that you are sincerely disliked, that you are even hated. I'm not preaching to you. I'm telling you that's how it is for me, because I teach best what I need to learn most. And if we release the lower, darker energies, if we release the trauma, if we release the overwhelm, how many times did you feel so overwhelmed in your life that you thought you're not going to see the next day? And here you are still today. That overwhelm is not real, because you will never be given more than you can handle, not ever. So releasing lower dark energies and releasing trauma and the overwhelm that accompanies it. Because remember, your ego wants to live in a familiar world where everything is governed by beliefs. Because then the belief, what you believe about your life, will give you the feeling, and the feeling will give you the way that you're going to behave. So the ego, with its familiarity and beliefs, will resist this process of ascension. It's not going to let you. It's going to put everything, and some of the things that will put into your path as speed bumps are not even speed bumps. They're like walls that you crash into. The emotional challenges will be great. You'll have to deal with situations that you never dreamt of. You'll be exposed to events that you cannot explain, that it just makes no sense. It's just not possible for me to even accept that is happening in my life. But it is. And that's also part of the ascension process. You're not going to understand everything. That overwhelm and that ego insisting on its familiar process and its familiar comfort zones and its beliefs that will resist the process. There is in everything, there needs to be a breakdown. The breakdown comes before we get the breakthrough. It's like renovating a home. You need to break down the wall to break through to where you want to build and what you want to alter and how you want to make it better. A breakdown is often needed before there can be a breakthrough. And the breakdown doesn't mean that you now need to go and smash everything. It means that you need to be aware when a breakdown is actually in progress. Because most of the time, the breakdown is happening all around you. And it's about how you're going to conduct yourself while that breakdown is being because you're subjected to it as well. But it might not be part of your process, but you're not an island. So you're surrounded by a lot of energies, and you need to be able to deal with those energies too. So this is an absolute on our planet. Everything here gets broken down in order for new things to be built. If you look at the weaver bird, the female comes, he's just built that nest. I see them now in my garden all the time. He's just built that nest over 2 weeks. He worked so hard, and she just comes and she just unpins it with her beak, and down goes the nest to the ground, and he has to start again. She's just broken it down. But there's a breakthrough because she's accepted that he can build a nest for her and they can have babies together. So there's going to be a continuation. We're going to survive here. But not in that house. I'm breaking that one down. You're going to have to build a new one. It's not an emergency. It's how it works here. So then the next is that you'll be yearning for home. And you're not really yearning for home, because home, actually, the acronym for home is heaven on Mother Earth. So you're longing for a world of peace, to return to a place where source, true, authentic, original, the origin, source, offers you that sense of completion. When you connect to a level in yourself because of your ascension process, that you can connect to such a level that there's a deep sense of completion within you, But now what we do with this yearning for home, with this yearning for a world of peace, for this feeling of inner peace, for this feeling of having enough, because that's what a sense of completion is. It's enough. Now what we do is we actually withdraw, because it instills in us the feeling to withdraw. And when you withdraw, there's no participation. So now, instead of subjecting yourself to the feeling to withdraw, because you have this yearning for home, and most of the time people's yearning for home translates into a form of escape. And the escape can be many things. They can sit and play on an Xbox the whole day and just live in, take themselves out of this reality into another reality. That's what kids do. And then, of course, ascension is a profound process for change at a cosmic level. It's the stuff that we're busy with here is big. It's vast, it's ginormous, it's greatness. So ground yourself often. Communicate. Include. And I'm very much guilty of it. I really don't, I don't need, I honestly, I'm not good at handling emergencies. I'm not good at and I haven't been very good at handling any of these ascension symptoms that I've been feeling and that I've been experiencing at an intense level. I teach best what I need to learn most. So go forth and be the best version of yourself. Because all that I can offer is who I am, myself, my authenticity, my spontaneity, my vulnerability. My true power is a certain sense of fearlessness about my vulnerability. Who would you be if you stopped trying? I'm using the word trying with poetic license. Who would you be if you stopped trying to prove your enough-ness? Who will you be when you stop trying to prove to yourself that you are enough? Who will you be? Because the manifestation of trying to prove your enoughness in this world is going to be an underneath, an underlying, a hidden agenda, an underlying feeling that you're actually so angry with yourself and with life. And that you just feel so stupid for failing again, for getting it wrong again. And sometimes it's not even a mistake that is repeated. It's simply just life throwing us a speed bump. And what are you going to do with that speed bump? Are you going to show up? Are you going to show, what are you going to do? And normally for me, I run away. I just, that's the withdrawing. And that's why I can learn from this as well. When you don't really feel good enough, you so need to prove that you are right. I'm right and you're wrong. You are so deeply ensconced in proving how right you are. Because you don't feel good enough. You don't feel that you are worthy of anything. You're not in an ascension process. You've removed yourself from it completely because you're too afraid to experience, to know thyself. You become scared about the lack that you're feeling in your life, because everywhere you look, all that you can see is everything that's lacking and everything that's not there and everything that's missing. And then, of course, you're constantly worried that you're doing the right thing. Am I doing the right thing? Am I getting it right? What you're really saying is, I feel no confidence really, so I'm just pretending. Because eventually you pretend so much that you don't know yourself anymore. That you don't know who you are. I don't know who I am. And then you go on to TikTok, and you go on to Instagram, and you go on to Pinterest, and you go on to all these places, and then they say, oh, you know what, it's just keep feeling good. Have another meditation, But what needs to happen is that you need to stop. You need to look at your life, look at what you do, and correct. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And most of the time, we're just thinking about how things are going to change. We don't do anything to change them. We won't even just show life that we are willing to take that first step. Doesn't mean that you have to go through with the steps all the way to the end. If I save my first, let me use an international currency. If I save my first $10, that's going to be my passage, my journey to paying for a lovely overseas holidays. But I've got to make that first saving. I've got to take that first step. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I can't sit and constantly think about this wonderful holiday that I'm going to have in the United States, or I'm going to Disneyland, or I'm going to go to Sao Paulo, to visit my guru. If I'm not going to do something to begin that journey, I need to begin. How can we do the same thing, repeat it, and expect a different thing to happen? How can you just sit and think, I want tea, and not get up and put the kettle on and make yourself a cup of tea? To just sit and think how much you want tea and how nice it feels, and in your mind to imagine how nice the tea is tasting. Yes, wonderful. Your body's not going to know the difference. It's going to think that you're having tea. But your present moment experience is not drinking tea, because you are material, you are physical, you are in this first dimension of existence. If behind the scenes you're going to continue beating yourself up because of the experiences that you're given to live, because we are all given some really challenging experiences. Nobody's exempt. This earth is like that. That's why you're here. But if you're going to continue to beat yourself up for everything that you feel that's negative, thinking, it doesn't work for me, but it always works for them. In that comparative state, they always getting it, them, they, but it doesn't happen here. When you look at your current reality and you see that nothing's changing because you're not doing anything to change it. Change means that something needs to end. It needs to stop happening for something new to begin. That's what change means. And between the time that something stops happening and something new begins, there's a gap. There's a pause. There's a gap. The energy doesn't happen yet. It's a void. And then the new begins. Now, most people live in this void here, where the stop happened, but the new hasn't begun, because they're sitting in inaction. They're sitting in all these energies of beating ourselves up for everything negative that's happened before, and for everything negative that we're still going to have to deal with, because life is an emergency. And then you're told, it's okay, have another meditation, and so the loop continues, because you're given, have another pill. The deepest shift that we can ever experience is the moment we shine our light and we cast our shadows into the light, because then they disappear. And when you ascend, you become light. pure light. When you ascend, even your physical body will become less dense. It becomes almost translucent. You feel it. And you'll see when that person moves, you can see it's almost like they, like when you look at the heat on the road, you see that energy go with them. It begins with holding space. You need to be a space in which miracles can happen. You can be the one that's going to change this entire planet. It takes just one person, one voice. And it doesn't mean that you have to stand on a platform where you can have followers and everybody can see and hear you. No. It has to do with your own self-esteem, with your knowingness, with your authenticity, with knowing who you are, with ascending with an absolute open heart and a willingness to be great, to live in your greatness and to do things differently. We are all mad here, making a difference. Every one of us. It's a mad, mad world. To make a different choice, to take different action, to be willing to break this loop, this cycle, and sever the sabotage that you've created, the sabotaging of your own ascension, and to remember you are already enough as you are right now. You are enough. Thank you. That's my story for today. I haven't checked how many people came to sit with me this morning. Thank you for your presence, and thank you so much for the support that you give, the sharings that I share here with you. It was wonderful to be with you this morning, and have a lovely rest of your day. And if you are an international client, international viewing, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care. Goodbye.